Hi everyone, I'm Rick Zanotti. I'm the up over here guy, and right next to me, a mere, 7,000 miles away, is our down under guy, Jeff Blanchard. And here we go. I love that intro.
Marissa, it is a nice one.
Marissa Pies, one of our graphic artists and After Effects specialists, did that. And she just cranked it right out. And it's fun. We've got that little beach music that applies to both of us. And it's good. It's really good. Hey, Jeff, how are you today?
Great, thanks, Rick. Another lovely day in paradise down here in Australia. 80 degrees today, or 27 in our temperature.
Yeah, we are 94 today.
How much?
94, which is about 30-something degrees, I think.
Yes, and that's nice. It's fall for you, isn't it?
It's fall, yes. You never know.
Yeah, and ours is spring, so I mean, it's getting to warm up, and yours is still keeping
It was so
warm.
hot, I decided I'm in Maui today, so.
Yes.
I am in Maui.
I could have gone the same way, but I thought not.
Yeah, we were talking in the pre-show that we both almost wore a very similar shirt. That would be odd, but
That's right.
but we spared you of that. So,
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I know you're having a talk about the Samsung Note 4 phone, but I've also been interested myself in the last nearly 12 months on upgrading my phone. But there's been so many new phones coming out that I think I'll wait for this one, I'll wait for that one. So I'm in anticipating the release of the Samsung Note 4, and I'm not too sure when it's coming out here. I see in all the blogs and that it should be out in your part of the woods around about the 17th of October,
That's
I believe.
correct.
And there's been so many different things about Apple phones and Samsung phones, and all like the Apple phone with the bend gate issue. But like everybody's saying, you've got a piece of equipment that big. When you sit on it, and there's all that. If you sit on the back pocket, it will bend. But one of the advantages with the Samsung phones is yes, that might still bend a bit, but it flexes back quite a lot easier than you would on the iPhone. But both of them, I think we were looking around about the $1,100 for the Note. I know in my part of the world, the iPhone 6, the big one, is about $1,300. So when you buy something that much, I'm not going to be throwing it about. Sitting in, I definitely wouldn't put it in my back pocket. I would, and I may put it in my top pocket, but more than likely, when I'm spending that much, I'll put it in a little holster that's going to keep it nice and steady for me. Because it's not a phone anymore; it's your personal computer now. You live by it.
Yeah, and in some cases, it's your girlfriend. So.
Yeah, that's right. And I was seeing quite an interesting while I was looking around at the Apple and the Samsung. There's something that people can't say on podcasts and on the air now because it sets off your iPhone. And somebody was filming something and showing a news story of President Obama talking about Syria. And when he said something about Syria, his phone lit up and said, "What do you want me to do?" And so Syria sounds quite...
and he said, "Bomb them." Yes.
And people say if you want to really screw people up is on podcasts, just say the magic word and see how many iPhones wake up. And as I said, I suppose it'd be the same in the Android market, where there'll be I just don't know what the key phrase is, but they have the same sort of thing to wake that up.
Well, it's funny. I have Siri on my iPad, and the other day I said, "Siri, what do you think about Cortana? That they're going after them hard and heavy. Cortana's an app that, in essence, looks like it talks better than Siri." And Siri said, "Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you." So I said, "Siri, can you do everything Cortana does?" "I'm not really that important. Let's talk about you." So obviously it's programmed to ignore that phrase. sort of interesting. You know, the Android phones can do everything Siri does right now. I don't see any difference. It's really come a long way. You know, a year and a half ago, Android could barely do anything. Now, I think they're dead even, and they even sound better in some cases.
Mm.
So it's just hard to tell. Now, I did hear a funny one. I asked my phone, I asked Siri, tell me a joke. And she said, the past, the future, and the present got together. It was tense. So then I asked
dear.
Robin on my HTC One Max, Robin, tell me a joke. And she says, I've been on so many blind dates recently, they owe me a free dog. I go, okay, I'm not sure who won that one, but
That's
they were both pretty good.
socials go. That's where social's getting really disturbing. Is, you know, not that we just use the internet for interacting with people, but now we're using our phone to
Interact
keep
with the
us
phone.
content. There was a show, an episode on The Big Bang Theory, where Raj just had Siri, and he was dating Siri really, and asking her all the questions because she gave him all the right answers. And
Well, I told
thought that was-
one of them the other day, Robin, I love you, and she goes, oh, you say that to all the virtual voice assistants.
But as I say, with you know, just with these phones, there's now, I think, with the release of the Apple iPhone 6, it's not better than that, and it's not less. But what it is they're even now. I think you can't. You just say which one would you prefer, and it's more so. And now you can port a lot of the things from iTunes. You're not missing out on anything. Whereas, say, 2 years ago, oh no, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do
Right.
this. But there's a lot to be said for that now, and I'm getting swayed a bit. And with the Samsung as well, you've got an additional battery, which is a big plus for most
Yes,
people. So you can,
which is new because I had the Samsung Note 3, and you couldn't replace your battery, but now you
couldn't
can.
Oh, okay.
Finally. So this is clever. And the HTC One Max, I cannot replace my battery. So they're all realizing, you know, batteries are important. You don't want to always be stuck with whatever they give you. Or if you run out of battery and you have no time to recharge it, put a new one in, boom, you're done. Now that brings us to what I wanted to talk about, which is the Galaxy Note 4, and I'll compare it a little bit to the iPhone 6 Plus, minus sitting on it and cracking it. We won't talk about that. So, Clark, do you want to run the video on the Galaxy Note? Now, Samsung must have gone right to the archives of disco for that music. Okay, but anyway, it's interesting. The Galaxy Note 4 versus let's talk about the Galaxy Note 4 and the iPhone 6 Plus, just so you get an idea. They're both new phones. Neither is, well, actually, I think the Galaxy is coming out in mid-October, maybe 17th, like you said. And now here the prices are different. Stateside with a contract, it's about, I think, $300 for the Note 4, and it's also about $300 or $350, maybe it's $4 for the Note for the Apple 6 Plus. So they're not as expensive. Here we don't sell unlocked phones very often. Everything's locked. The screen size. Oh, let's talk body size. The body on the iPhone is actually a little taller and a tad wider than the Note 4, but the Note 4 screen is actually 0.2 inches bigger, 5.7 versus 5.5. But Apple made it bigger frame-wise, so they have a bigger frame, and it could be partly because their camera is a little bigger and pops out of the phone. That's the first time I'm seeing a camera pop out of a phone.
It's quite amazing, though, with how it just pops a little bit. There's
A
so
little
much
bit.
controversy about
Yes.
that, and people don't like that. So.
No, they want it sleek. Now, both let's talk about screens. The iPhone 6 Plus 1980, so 1920 by 1080. So it's true HD. For the first time ever, they've come out with a phone that actually has true HD. It took them long enough. Would it take them 5 years to get there? Android's had true HD phones for quite a while. The 4 has a 2500 pixel width. That's a lot more dense. 400 pixels per inch on the Apple, 551 pixels per inch on the Android. That's quite a bit more. Now, the funny thing is, the human eye can only see up to 300 pixels per inch, so it doesn't really matter. Just an interesting aside.
Even looking at the previous one in your Note 3, just the video quality it's always been excellent.
It was
I don't
very
know,
good.
And like people say, it doesn't matter about specs. What does it do? And that
That's
just
right.
did an excellent job. So
That's right.
if it's anything like that and better, it's just
Yep.
going to be a great phone.
Now, this one's a preference, but the Note 4 has an AMOLED screen, and the AMOLEDs do look nice. The Apple has an IPS, LED backlit IPS. A little different. They're going to have different color tones. The AMOLED, I believe, is a little bit warmer, and the IPS is a little bit colder, a little bluer. But that's a preference thing. I don't think many people will care too much. I like the AMOLED. I like the IPS. I have IPSs. You and I both have iMacs, and they have IPS. They look good. But the AMOLEDs have a certain organic feel to them. And it is. It has a more organic silicon to them. They're really pretty cool. So the 4 definitely has a larger screen and more pixels. So you have a little bit better, actually a lot better resolution, about 30% better resolution. That's quite a bit. Then you've got cameras. They both shoot pretty good video. The Note 4 shoots 4K, but they don't shoot they call it ultra high definition, but it is not 3840. It's 21 something or other. So it's like a 2K. So they're shooting 2K, which is still called ultra high def, but it's not as ultra high as the bigger cameras, which are shooting 3840. The Apple shoots 1920 by 1080, so it's HD. They both have good video qualities. The Apple shoots faster video with a higher bit rate.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
interesting. The Apple can go up to, I think it was 180 or is it 200 on the frames, 280 frames per second or 200 frames per second versus I believe it's 128 on the Note 4. So there is a little bit of a difference between the video capability. So one does a higher resolution video, but lower frames per second. What does that mean? Does anybody really care? Probably not. But if you're shooting sports and you want to have a lot of slow motion video, you'll probably get a little bit better slow motion from the Apple right now than you would from the Note 4, but I haven't seen them. I can't really say, yes, this one's better than that one. But just based on specs, the Apple looks like it would have better slow motion.
Yeah.
They both have optical image stabilization. Now that's sweet because that means the lens is stabilizing your hand movements. So if you move a lot, you say, I shoot with this hand, and you're like this, well, that's not going to help you much, whether it's optical or not. But they both do optical image stabilization. I don't know who's better. They both have probably pretty good lenses. The iPhone, I think, has 5 lenses in it. I don't know how many the Note has. They probably have at least 3. But it's amazing the amount of lenses that go into those small little holes, basically, and that they can have optical image stabilization. They have the same focus type, and both have, well, one big difference: 16 megabyte or megapixel camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the Note 8 on the iPhone. It's half, and that could make a difference.
That's the thing, what I've seen with that I really do like with the Samsung. It's like it's got to a 3 gigabyte RAM and 32 gigabyte storage.
Yes.
But
no, you can go up to
that's standard, but you can add more.
You can add up to 128 gigs with an a micro SD card.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the exorbitant high price of the 128 gig iPhone.
And you're still 32 gigs less than. Yeah, so that's always been the case. You can add external data to that, and you can also, through the port on the Note, add external USB 3 devices.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you could actually connect bigger things with it. So that's kind of cool. They're both large tablets, and the Apple does not have a stylus.
No.
The Note has a Wacom stylus with 2048 sensitivity points. That's amazing. That's the same as what you find on the bigger Wacom tablets. That may make a difference.
And also with that, I've seen as well, it's got the stylus there, but if you don't need it, it tucks away so firmly in there, you're never going to lose it. It's not going to just fall out of there. And I think if you've got a phone with such big real estate, you probably want a stylus when you sat down and want to write a few things and tap on the screen. I think you do want that option.
Well, yeah, and now because of the 2048 points of sensitivity or pressure sensitivity, that means you can actually draw on it. First time ever, Photoshop Touch, Photoshop Express, whatever Photoshop, Mix right now, now you can draw on it.
Now, Rick, with the Galaxy, with the Note 4, I've been hearing something about the Edge. What's the difference between the Edge and the
Edge,
4?
It's the same phone, but it has one key differentiator among a little more expensive. On the side of, Clark, can you put me on? On the side of the phone, you've got an Edge right here, which can show you text. It can show you other applications. One of their Siri-type commands can show up here. It can give you navigation instructions. You can write applications for the Edge of your phone. It's gonna. I'm sure it's gonna create a whole generation of zombies who look at their phone like this all the time now. But yeah, who knows?
On the little things I have seen about it, one of the things they say is for people who are at a meeting or out to dinner, they shouldn't be looking at the phone. They can put the phone face down and can still see a message came in.
I know.
On the side. So
yeah. Now my wife Leslie, she wants one of them. I go, why do you want an Edge? I go, you text once a month. I want it. Well, yeah, but you don't text. I want it. But don't you want to get? I want it. All right. You sure you want it? I want it. All right. So she gets it. She hasn't gotten it yet, but that's what she wants.
Well, they're looking at the release date for them. I don't know why they're so late, but I think in the US it's sometime in November. But if you happen to live in Canada, I think they're not due until 2015.
The Note 4? The Note 4?
Yeah, no, the Edge.
The Edge. The Edge isn't coming out at the same time.
No, it seems to be much later, late November, and then in Canada, and that said next year. So that's
now, see, to me or anybody over 40, it's a useless feature. Because you're going to do this. Oh, I just got a text message. You don't have your glasses on, and you're talking to somebody. Oh, I got a text message. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you've got a 5.7-inch screen, and you're just squashing everything into half, well, not even a quarter of an inch.
Oh, by the way, speaking of thickness, the Apple is actually several millimeters thicker than the Note 4, which is rather interesting. A little bit thicker.
What I was saying earlier was there's as I said, with the bend gate issue with the Apple one. And so from what I'm hearing, 9 people actually had the problem out of 10 million people, so it was a huge problem.
Right.
But now they've got onto the Edge gate with the Note 4, but I'm hearing there's a video out there with a gentleman who took his iPhone 6 and bent that to pieces. He's done an unboxing of the Note 4, which was, I haven't seen it all the way through, but he's got a Korean version that he got before the US release, which it'll be interesting to have a look. But one of the things to say on that is predominantly, say, the plastic casing, but they've put sort of a lining of aluminium or something around the outside.
Yes.
And there's some sort of gap between something and I think what it is everybody's trying to find something to go talk about the other one, and because it's big, like who else is buying what else is selling out there after, what is it, 40 million iPhones, is it? Or 20 million iPhones, and
Yes.
how many of these ones are going? There's not going to be much else for anybody else to
Of course,
sell.
it's sort of interesting. There are 50 million iPhones, which is not a bad number, but Android's well into the billion.
Well, there was just showing a comparison of the people who work for different companies, and the thing was they were showing Apple that had about 42,000 employees, and they said that's been blown up a little bit with all the Apple stores, with all the geniuses and that, because there's thousands of them. But then it said, look at Samsung, and there was something like 272,000 people.
Right.
And I thought, my goodness, that's incredible amount of people, isn't it?
They're
But
both large companies, and they both do good work. Though it's funny, Apple likes to make fun of people making fun of them, saying, "And they think we can't innovate." My ass, they do innovate, but they innovate after everybody else has. Meaning,
Well,
I saw
and
the
that-
announcement for the Apple 6, and I wasn't impressed. Big deal. Okay, the chip on the Apple seems fast enough, but there's really no good specs on it, so nobody knows how fast it is. They keep that sort of quiet. But there's an octa-core on the Note 4. You've got a quad-core, Twin Dragon something or other, very fast chip, and then you've got another quad-core for the graphics GPU.
Oh.
That's fast. Now they have that motion GPU on Apple, but nobody knows how fast it really is. So, they say they're faster, but they have lesser things to be faster with. Their screen size is smaller, so you don't need as much power to refresh all the pixels. And their camera is only 8 versus 16, so you don't need as much power to refresh all the pixels. The battery size on the Apple is supposedly a lot smaller than the battery on the Note 4, which will last you more than a day. Apple devices rarely last you a full day.
And the new Apple one, the 6, it's got its battery's claiming it will do 2 days on it, but
Standby.
whether it will or not. But also the downside of that is on the standard charger, it takes forever to charge.
Right.
But what they have found though is if you use it didn't work on the iPhone 5 and that, but if you use your power adapter for your Mac Air or your iPad, that's a bit higher wattage, it will charge much quicker in half the time.
Okay.
I said, but it doesn't work on that trick doesn't work on the old ones. But as I said, and people, you want a phone to last you at least a day because you're getting emails in and out, and if it doesn't, where can you charge up? And at least with say the Galaxy or the Note 4, you can also purchase another battery. So if you're that desperate, you can have one at standby. So if you've never got electricity to get to, so.
Well, it's also funny because I think Apple has made all its money throughout the last 5 years on connectors. First, they give you the big connector. Then, after 3 years, they get rid of it for the Lightning connector, and everybody has to either buy adapters, which they do, or you buy a new phone. There were rumors that every time a new Apple iOS comes out, it cripples the previous versions, and it does slow them down. So it's sort of interesting. They kind of force you to upgrade because you're slow now, unless you don't care.
Well, I wonder how many businesses have got, how many places have gone out of business that produced all these iPhone docks and that. And because there's thousands, and there must have been some businesses that just couldn't cope when they just changed the fitting.
And I'm really ticked, and you've heard this. I have this Philips, I forgot what it's called, the model number, but it's a large blimp-size Philips audio system. You put your iPhone in. It worked for the 4S, but after that I was dead. It fit perfectly. It communicated with the remote. It was great. Well, now I can do it, but I have to go through the aux port in the back. It's just not as good. No, my remote doesn't work anymore. It's just, that was useless. $500 down the tube. It still sounds great, but I can't connect anything to it, not easily.
And that's the whole point of those ones with the docks. Just throw it in there and it's working. If you have to connect it to it, well, you might as well do a normal stereo and do something different.
Exactly. So I think, but if you notice, you go to an Apple store now and those docks are gone. Nobody's selling them anymore. There's 2 or 3 and that's it. There used to be 20, 30.
But having said that, with all the things, as I said, I still don't know whether I'll be swayed to the iPhone 6. The big thing that I see where a lot of people are, because they're into the ecosystem of Apple, they just can't be bothered switching. But I keep seeing there's so many different help things to get you to port from iPhone to Android. And that I think that gap's getting lesser and lesser. It's just what do you like to use better, and they are different. Like an iPhone, even though it's starting to look the same, it's quite different to your desktop machine. You wouldn't say, oh no, it's you get used to that. So getting used to a different thing like the Android on the Note 4 wouldn't really be a big thing. And now they're identical sizes. Really, you can't say one's too big compared to, they've both got the same size, so they've got an even platform now. So I think they're onto a winner with that Note 4, though, personally.
Yeah, and really what happens is it becomes really a preference. Which one do you like? 2 years ago, you couldn't find good apps on Android. They were pretty crappy. Now, I don't really see much difference. In fact, in a lot of ways, I like the flexibility of Android apps way better. Because you have more options, more preferences, you've got nicer displays and bigger displays, and you're not tied to the way Apple makes you look at a screen. I can move anything anywhere I want, it just works. I have a lot less flexibility with Apple.
And I don't know about you, but they'll go on in both formats. How many apps are here? How many apps are there? In all the time I've had phones that I've had apps, you load them in, you don't use them any, but there's not many I use.
Right.
So the ones I do, I use one password, and that's on Android. So I thought, well, that's the main thing. All I want that to sync with my Dropbox file. It will do.
They all do that.
And most of the ones that you have to have, they'll have them in Android and iOS. The ones that they won't have, well, in any of them, they're doing these games and apps that you didn't like back in the 70s when they came out, but now they're going backwards. Oh, look at this, fantastic.
I've got Pong on my phone, yeah.
I remember we had a TV that, and it's just these 2 white lines going up and a white dot hitting, and we thought it was fantastic.
Did you ever see the Mel Brooks movie, Silent Movie?
Yes, I have. Yes,
do you remember the part, I think it was Marty Feldman or Sid Caesar. He's in bed.
Oh, yes.
And he's got the heart meter on, and the other guy goes, "Oh, it's Pong," and they both grab their remotes and they're doing, and he's alive, he's dead, he's alive, he's dead, and they're. That's a good scene.
But I think we've come so far these days, and I try to keep up every week. But like you said, with work and everything else, there's so many different ones to follow and keep. Like I listened to, as I said, Leo Laporte, and just his is 6 hours nearly of that on a weekend.
Right.
So you put your headphones on, and luckily they're in an audio format, so you can go and walk the dog, you can wash the car and do all that. But you have to if you want to keep up with them. But I don't tend to buy magazines anymore because you just get online and you get it, like when Leo's there and say you're there in America. As soon as it's done, I can get it. I don't have to wait for a publication to come out, and you hear exactly what's going on.
And most publications tend to be published 2 to 3 months ahead of time. So they're outdated by the time they get out there. At least the print ones. The digital ones can be a little faster.
Getting back to the Note 4 also as well, I found there's quite a good site there. They've even already got the manual online, so I started having a look at that because that's quite interesting. That's where you show where the batteries are and all that.
Right.
But it's amazing that now, before the phone comes out, you've got the instruction book, the manual, so you can peruse through that.
I know.
10
No,
years ago, you never got the instruction book 10 months after it had
no.
been released.
And the one
You
that
could
you
never
get
get it.
with the phone, you should just go, "Well, you can't read it anyway. It's 4-point type." Um, they're just useless. And I
I
keep
like,
wondering,
well,
why do they bother?
I like reading my instruction books from overseas. I bought something from China, and it meant to say wait 4 seconds, but it's every time where it said the word seconds, they'd inserted the word secretary. So press the button and wait 4 secretaries for this to happen. And there was a few things like that, and it was hilarious to read. Say every time it's seconds, it was secretaries.
Secretaries. That didn't make it through the QA department, right?
No, definitely not.
No.
But I think it'd be worthwhile having a look at that. The unboxing that fella did in America, but it's quite good in there. But I really do like the specs of that Samsung with as I said, that 16 megabit camera. Now, Rick, it's the Android. It said 4.4.4. Is that the current? Is that the latest version?
4.4.2, I think, but there was a recent version. I don't know if it's 4.4.4.
Well, that's what the new
Is that the
Note 4
note?
saying. It's 4.4.4.
So it's a small update to, because I think my phone is still 4.4.2. But I haven't checked. Maybe it did update. I haven't noticed any major difference.
And that's the thing that just I've got to get used to with the Android, because it's hard to understand that not all of them have the same version, whereas iOS, because it's only one company,
Right.
it's that or nothing.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
whereas Android, they don't. They have different versions of
Right.
that. So if you have the latest, it might not be the best for that phone. So it's
Well, right,
that,
and what's interesting with Android, if you have a phone and that version doesn't work, it won't let you load it.
oh wait. Oh,
No,
okay. So
only the versions that work for your phone will be allowed.
oh well.
So they have
That's
some
a good,
smarts in.
yeah, because like
Yeah.
in the other one, you load it up, and if it
Right.
doesn't work, well, bad luck.
And the
You did
Google
load
Play
it.
Store is getting better. It used to be just garbage. Now it's actually almost as good as the iPhone or iTunes Store. It's getting pretty good. So you can find things that you're looking for without any real issue, and it just works okay. And it's not onerous. It's pretty easy. You don't have to type in your password every 6 seconds. It's just pretty easy to work with. Now, mind you, I like Apple. I have an Apple on my desk at work and home, but I also have PCs. I have both, and in some cases, for example, as a video editor, if I really want to edit videos, I'm much better off on a PC than on an Apple. They're faster. They're a lot faster. And, I have a machine I built recently. It runs circles around the iMac. And I'm just going, and it costs me $1,500 less, fully customized.
And now I was just seeing with interest that the latest version of Windows looks like being out, and it's operating system 10, Windows 10.
Is it really?
Yes.
Now, have you
that's
seen any of the reviews on it yet?
I was just watching one of the podcasts on it, and it looks they're liking it a bit, but I still think it's still a bit awkward. It's still got that Windows 8 feel, but
Right.
well, I'll reserve the judgment until that comes out, because
Sure.
I was going to upgrade to 8, but after
I
advice
don't
from a lot
mind
of
Metro,
people,
but I hate the lack of contrast on everything else on 8 and 8.1. When you're
and that
in,
was the thing with XP and all that. It was really easy to
it was
see.
easy. You could see
And
the
same
thing.
with-
I
you could
went
see
back. I
everything.
actually had Windows 8.1 on my main machine, and I took it off and went back to 7 because I could read it. On 8.1, I'm squinting all the time trying to make out the light gray text on a white background. Irritating. Just really irritating. Hard to see. And
But it's really, but it's like with technology in general. When we first started with word processors and spreadsheets, you could see them all nicely. Now you need a 16 gigabyte machine with
I know.
whatever to run them. But really, when you go back to the first ones that worked on a 20 megabyte drive with a
Yeah.
VisiCalc
VisiCalc in the old days.
RAM, it worked. It still worked. It's just didn't look as nice, but you could read it better.
But I think it looked
So-
better. You could read it.
Yeah, but it just didn't have any. It didn't look very nice. All the buttons, but you
No.
did have the functionality hasn't changed. It's more appealing, and
Right.
it just looks prettier.
Well, I have a theory that all of the 20-year-olds who are designing these piece of junk interfaces will be blind at 40. Because your eyes cannot take working in the highest resolution possible with no contrast for very long. They've done studies. They've done studies where they watch young and older people, and the young people, their eye muscles are completely constricted here as they're squint. They don't even realize the amount of eye strain they're getting, and it's really the interfaces. It's not only small fonts, it's colors that don't work well with our retina. Contrast.
And I've noticed lately with mine, you get more tired because we both of us, we spend our days looking at the screens, and the screens haven't changed that much in the past few years, but the programs we've been looking at have.
Yeah.
And so my eyes, just the last year or so, have been more than they've ever had.
Yes.
And I mean, a year's not that much to say you're getting just too old.
No.
But it is the programs you're looking at, and at least some of them give you the option to brighten them up, but then you brighten them up, then with the colours of use, you can't see what the thing when you brighten up the background or something.
And you can zoom in, but now you're looking at something that's very big and unreadable.
And that was with the going back to the Samsung Note 4, Rick. And a lot of the things there tailored for the bigger screen, aren't they? Because with the iPhone 6, even though it's got that big 5.7-inch screen, nothing's really tailored for it. It just expands it, and so if you've got a picture on your small iPhone, it just makes it bigger.
Well,
it
it's
doesn't
5.5
use the screen
too.
real estate.
5.7 is
the
the Note, and 5.5 is the 6 Plus. A little bit smaller.
A bit smaller.
But you're right. It's not built. When I first looked at the iPhone 5, which was a little bit bigger than the 4S, but very thin, it was smaller in print and lighter. So to me, it looked hard to read, and I didn't buy it. I went with that was my first Android when I saw the 5. And I've had 4 iPhones. I've had now 3 Androids. And I'm not going to go back to iPhone. I almost thought about going to the 6 Plus, and I said, nah, that doesn't offer me anything I want.
Well, the thing is with in tech and looking at things, well, what's the point? There's, as you said, 40 million people already have the iPhone. Let's give something else a try. So we like something different. It's the iPhone. Yeah, it is a great product, but we like something that's got a bit more real estate with different programs on it. Maybe it's a bit untidy, but we can rearrange it and we can control it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Not that it doesn't matter what it is. I like different technology.
Yep. Well, Jeff, we are at the end of our time.
Oh, we've even gone longer, I think.
We've gone a little bit longer, and we did all that on a phone, 2 phones.
That's right. But as I said, it's such an interesting subject.
It's a religious war.
And what I'll do with at the end, I'll put the link on my website to this show, and also I'll put the links in there to what we've been talking about.
Sure.
So what so people can click on the review for the Samsung that the fella did the unboxing.
Yeah.
And that, because it's quite interesting to keep an eye on that.
Now, I saw a great website. We can end with this. If you haven't seen it, it's really bizarre. It's called Will It Blend.
Will It Blend?
Will It Blend. And it's a guy who's done a lot of these, and he's viral, and he's everywhere, and he grabs everything, and he throws it in there and blends it. So he blends cameras and phones and anything. Will It Blend? So it's going to be curious to see what kind of...
in a proper blender.
Yes!
I thought you meant will it work together, but no,
It is the most bizarre show. I was watching it yesterday. One of our folks, who's also going to be a co-host soon, Marisa Post, she's going to be co-hosting Mobile Matters, and she'll probably be helping out on other shows when I'm on the road. And she goes, you haven't seen Will It Blend? So she showed me one of the episodes. It was bizarre. Will It Blend? He's an older guy, and he goes, and he gives you a review of the product, then he blends it. But the key is, will it blend? It is bizarre. And some of them are expensive products.
Yeah, I see people with that. They must have more money than sense, because if I bought a brand new iPhone, no matter what I wouldn't dare break it, no matter how much money I had. I couldn't do that. So.
And would you blend it?
No, definitely not. Oh, anyway.
Oh, well, hey, you know what? I don't know if you were watching the chat room. I don't have it on, but not sure if anybody was in the chat room today, but if you were,
Yes, I've got it on, but nobody
nobody's
responded
in.
or did anything.
Well, be
So
that way, you people. We're waiting for you. We have
yeah,
many
but
answers.
it is 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon there,
It
and
is,
it's
which is 6
eight
o'clock
o'clock in the
back
8
east.
o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning here. So
Yes.
next week it's we go on our summertime after this weekend, so I can have an extra hour sleep in next week.
Sounds
So
good. Sounds good. That means we're losing an hour somewhere, probably.
you do in, but yours is
Spring
in another
forward,
month.
we lose an
go a
hour.
month
Oh, fall
early.
backwards, we gain an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. Lots of stuff for people to consider. What phone to buy, and there's also other new phones coming out which look good. Next week, I'm going to probably talk about a microphone that you might like. It's sort of interesting. And by the way, you're using the Rode NTG2 today.
Yeah.
Very
Yep,
nice
that's
microphone.
Right.
He took that from me. I had it in my office, and he took it.
Apparently so.
I've been delusional for the last month, going, "Where's my NTG2? I lost it." It was his.
Well-
So
Well, I one of my earlier videos had the picture of my NTG2, and you can see the date on that. So maybe if it was before I've ever seen Rick, you know this is mine. So,
that's funny.
I did this because I had the headset last week, but I thought mine sounded a little scratchy, so I thought this sounds a little bit deeper. And
This sounds good.
not quite
It's a
scratchy.
clean
It does
sound. I could tell
good.
right away you were on a different mic, and I said, what is that? It looked like the Rode.
And also, as well, I'm on the Onyx Blackjack as well, so that makes a big difference.
You sent me some sound samples. That sounds good, and I've done some of my own. It sounds great. $159 Mackie Onyx Blackjack. If you're looking for, we'll do a show on sound soon, and we'll talk about that. That's hard to beat for the price.
Yeah, well, we better talk next week because we'll get onto that when we're talking
That's
about
right.
the microphone.
All right.
So we're bound to talk about things.
Everyone, have a great one, and we will see you next week on Tech Down Over. Take care.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.